sometimes you just can't help reading some of the stories in the news that you have to um, look it upon and say something about this, because I mean, this is about as evil and as ridiculous as it comes. Okay. City to ban street corner feedings of homeless. Philadelphia Mayor Michael Nutter, that's not a typo, folks, that's his last name, has announced a ban on the feeding of large numbers of homeless and hungry people at sites on and near the Benjamin Franklin Parkway. Nutter says the feeding lacked both sanitary conditions and dignity. I mean, you just can't make this up. Let me spell it out for you, okay? Because it has nothing to do with sanitary conditions and dignity. I mean, it's just utterly ridiculous. It means that the city of Philadelphia is lacking cash, and because we are ruled under maritime merchant law, if you want to feed the homeless or drive on the road, not travel, you need a license. So they're going to regulate it by forcing whoever wants to feed the homeless with, you need to ask permission from the city to do this. It's all about commerce. That's all it is. And it's totally ridiculous. That lacks both sanitary conditions and dignity, and therefore you don't see the prostitute horror media trying to seek out if that is a fact. All we have is just the word of the mayor Michael Nutter talking about the feeding the homeless like sanitary conditions and the dignity. You see how we have lost our common sense and our love for our fellow man, that we require licenses to regulate the feeding of homeless. And you know what, I get sick and tired of hearing, well, he shouldn't do that, you know, that's, you know, we pay from our taxes, it's public, we have a right to do this. Your ignorance, folks, is so deep, it defies comprehension. As long as you don't grasp the magnitude of living under the law of the sea that is in the land, you will continue in your utter destruction and oblivious ignorance. Because this has nothing to do with sanitary conditions or dignity. I mean, who comes up with stuff like that? Anyway, I just wanted to talk about the ridiculous and stupidity of the city of Philadelphia going through such lengths as forbidding people to feed the homeless. I mean, if you look at Orlando, you got folks who get arrested constantly for feeding the homeless because they don't have a license. Again, this all falls down to merchant maritime laws. The law of the sea isn't the law of the land. It has replaced the law of the land. We live in a color of law type of society. They've been conditioning us for too long, and it's becoming more obvious and obvious and obvious. And you can complain all you want. It's just not going to change, because they're not listening to us. We are their chattel, we are their cattle, and they can do whatever they want as long as you continue to participate and being conditioned like a dumbass. You can spew all kinds of ignorant statements. It's not going to change. They're going to continue. They're going to continue pushing it. Okay? In another news, soldiers were disarmed on the appearance of Secretary of Defense Leon Panetta. Yeah, we can't have our soldiers and Marines with their weapons in Afghanistan or Iraq. Every time we have one of these powerful representatives, they can't be called representatives, they don't represent us, the so-called leaders, because the sheep and cattle can't be seen around. Otherwise, you know, they may get shot, because they passed the National Defense Authorization Act. They passed bills that forbid anybody to protest near or around this money-hungry, despicable so-called leaders of ours. And that soldier, you know, I just love how the prostitute media say alleged, the soldier that killed 16 Afghanis. Even though RT News have reported that there are witnesses that survived the massacre, and yet we don't have the prostitute corporate horror media talking about this, because it's just, we need to protect the status quo. So yeah, they are disarm. Right. You know, soldiers, you're gonna have to, and Marines, by the way, and all service branch, you know, the only way this stops is for you to say, you know, I'm not gonna do this anymore. That will be honorable, very honorable. But you are so brainwashed to say, yeah, I can't talk about politics. Look, you live in this world, okay? So what you do will affect the outcome of the future. And if you continue to say, well, I just follow orders, well, then you're just a brain dead dumbass. And I don't you know, you can take that as an insult, but the fact of the matter is that the way things are is just it's not going to change until you say, you know, I'm not going to do this anymore. That will be honorable, very honorable. And last but not least, it's funny how some of these comedy personalities, actors, and whatever, you know, they preach tolerance, and you know, they get away with stupid comments like, well, the Tea Party are racist and insane. And here we have Chris Rock being asked, and he just lashes out like an idiot, like he's not gonna be shown, you know, perhaps in YouTube or other things. Of course, it's not gonna be. I don't consider the story major mainstream news, but you know, actors, you know, if you preach tolerance, you know, lead from the front, okay? Don't think for 1 second that you're not gonna be seen or recorded. Remember, you're an actor, all right? You make movies. You're in the spotlight, all right? So suck it up. If you preach tolerance, practice what you preach. I think it will help you a great deal. So these are the news of today, because it's just I just think it's worth talking about it for a little bit.